Morning. It is my pleasure to talk about the topic which affects every single person sitting over here and even each and every single individual globally, and that is basically nutrition. So today we are going to start with the first lecture in the lecture series of human nutrition. Myself, Dr. Swati Vyas, and I am Associate Professor in Foods and Nutrition, Department of Home Science. To start with, nutrition is often considered as a chapter, maybe a discipline, but if we talk broader sense, we will find that nutrition is not just this. This is basically a problem which needs to be urgently solved. It is a life skill which we need to learn, because as we know, unbalanced nutrition, it leads to malnutrition, and this malnutrition is reciprocated in two forms, that is either undernutrition or overnutrition. You know, this undernutrition leads to various kinds of deficiencies like protein energy malnutrition, anemia, and this is directly impacting the human capital globally as well as nationally, and it reduces the working capacity, the productivity, and hence there are several economic implications because of this. On the contrary, if we talk about overnutrition, it again leads to various kinds of lifestyle disorders, and these lifestyle disorders are basically reciprocated in form of either cardiovascular diseases, diabetes, hypertension, which also further results in productivity losses. Okay, so today we are going to talk about these things in detail, and we are going to start with energy requirements. Energy requirements are basically most important things to be discussed, because they are contributed, the energy is contributed from three major macronutrients, that is carbohydrates, proteins, and fats in the diet. Humans need wide range of nutrients for living a healthy and economically productive life. Therefore, whatever components which we are selecting from the diet are very important, and we need to consider them according to our physical activity level, according to the physiological status of the person. Energy is required for maintaining your body temperature, energy is required for maintaining the basal metabolic rate, energy is required for doing various kinds of physical activity. Hence, the recommended energy allowances, they are designed to provide sufficient energy that will promote satisfactory growth in particular stages of life. For example, in infancy, childhood, during pregnancy, during lactation. Secondly, energy requirements, they are completely dependent on your energy expenditure. Okay, because excess energy is stored in our body in form of fat, and this can result in overweight and obesity. Besides this, energy which is stored has to be selected according to the expenditure level. Hence, we will be talking about estimated energy requirements rather than recommended dietary allowances in case of energy. Okay, because average daily requirement will correspond to our average daily energy expenditure. Energy as a fuel is provided from carbohydrate, which gives us 4 kilocalories, from protein, which gives us again 4 kilocalories, fat gives us 9 kilocalories, and these are two other components which, if when included in the diet, they also contribute to the energy intake. Now, from this graph, you can understand the energy value of food. The first thing is gross energy value. Now, this gross energy value is basically the amount of chemical energy which is stored in various kinds of food products. So, if we are using carbohydrate, fat, or protein and burning them outside our body in an instrument called bomb calorimeter, okay, it is going to provide, carbohydrate will provide 4.15 kilocalories, fat will provide 9.4 kilocalories, protein will provide 5.65 kilocalories. However, when we talk about the combustion of these fuel inside our body, some amount of energy is being lost as heat through feces, and the component of energy which we get is called digestible energy. Okay. Digestible energy. This digestible energy provides us, in case of carbohydrate, 4 kilocalorie, in case of fat 9 kilocalorie, in case of 5.2 kilocalories. Furthermore, some energy is lost in urine inside our body. And the final component of energy which we get for various purposes, which actually fulfills our requirement, is metabolizable energy. This is termed as metabolizable energy. Okay. And this is basically one which is contributing to the physiological fuel value of the foods which we consume. And this is further reduced. In case of carbohydrate, it is 4, in case of fat, it is 9, and in case of protein, it is 4. So maximum energy lost during this process is from protein. If we combustion value of protein outside the body is 5.65 kilocalorie, but inside the body it is contributing to 4 kilocalorie. I hope I am clear. Now this next concept is regarding the nutrient metabolism. This is reflecting the summary of nutrient metabolism in our body. Whatever food which we are consuming is undergoing the process of digestion. It is digested, some amount is excreted, but some amount is absorbed in the body. This absorption, whatever nutrients which we are absorbing, they are entering to our body pool. Our body pool is mainly governed by liver, in which you will find that various kinds of minerals and fat soluble vitamins as well as energy is stored. Then some amount is entering in our bloodstream and other tissues. Now whatever things are present in the body pool, they are retained in the body of animal. Some undergo metabolic changes and are excreted via exhalation, that is the air which we are expiring. So carbon dioxide is actually exhaled. Some amount is excreted through urine, okay, and some is entering the intestinal secretions, which are further involved in digestion and other kind of processes. Okay, so this is the diagram which is representing in general nutrient metabolism aspect taking place in the body. Now since we need to understand the energy requirements and how the energy is being used, what are the major factors which are impacting the energy expenditure in the body, before that we need to understand the concept of energy balance. Balance is basically state of your body. The state of your body is influenced by intake and output. So to start with, in case of energy balance, this is the first state, which is called as state of equilibrium, which is desirable mostly in the case of adults. Whatever components of energy we are consuming, intake, it has to be equal to output. So first we consume energy in various forms, maybe carbohydrate, maybe protein, maybe fat. It is entering our body pool and then we are using that energy, and that is termed as output. Using means expenditure. Now in case of adult, when there is no growth taking place, whatever we are consuming has to be used up. Otherwise, even if we are consuming 5 kilocalorie extra, it will be regularly deposited in the body, and gradually after a period of time, one will enter into the problem of overweight or obesity. Because overweight and obesity, they don't happen in a single day. We tend to gain weight in small proportions, gradually, and then the weight increases to a great extent. So in case of adulthood, it is always desirable to be in equilibrium state. Now the next condition is termed as positive balance. So by the term only you will be able to understand that whatever you are consuming, whatever is the intake, it is entering in your body pool, it is being retained. This amount is reflecting nutrient retention. Okay, that means it is being stored in your body, and output means your expenditure. Now see, if in case of adulthood, if you are retaining, it is leading to overweight, obesity, but there are certain physiological conditions, certain stages in the life cycle wherein this positive balance is actually required. These are those stages whenever growth is taking place. Okay, growth is happening during infancy, growth is happening during childhood, growth is also happening during your adolescence. It is the last growth spurt. Adolescence, number of hormonal changes are taking place in boys as well as in girls. So you know those things, they require extra energy. Besides this, we have certain physiological conditions like pregnancy and lactation, where also different kind of growth is taking place. During pregnancy, you will find that the fetus is growing, the placenta is growing, the maternal tissues are developing. During lactation, you will find that milk is being produced in the body. All these things, they require energy, and hence it is always desirable that the person is consuming more than the required expenditure, or rather than in equilibrium, the person is trying to maintain him or herself in positive balance. Now this is the third stage in energy balance, that is termed as negative balance. So if the term negative is coming, that means intake is less than Obviously, the intake will be lesser than output. Output will be more. Then only we are losing on. Okay. So there are certain conditions wherein the negative balance is also desirable. Okay, whenever a person is obese or overweight, person actually adopts the process of dieting, they tend to reduce down their intake. But here again one needs to understand this concept that like our body is very smart. If you are reducing your intake, it will enter into homeostasis and the BMR will go down. Very important that at the same time we need to increase the output in form of physical activity. Okay. Then only we will be able to create negative balance, and one will tend to use the reserves which are being present, extra reserves which are being present in the body, and then only the person will reduce weight. So clubbing dieting with physical activity, enhancing physical activity, both are important. Okay. Now there are certain undesirable situations also where accidentally negative balance actually happens in the body. For example, whenever there is malnutrition, which happens because of poor socio-economic status, poverty, because of drought, because of famine, because of unknown conditions, environmental issues, wherein the people, they don't get enough food to eat. Because of that, they enter into negative balance. Now, the next concept, that is basically summary of how energy expenditure is happening in the animal's body. Whatever food energy which we are consuming, as we discussed, it is entering our body pool, it is being metabolized, it is generating heat, some amount is lost in the heat. Whatever food you are consuming, 40 to 60% is basically lost. Suppose I am consuming 100 grams, from this 100 grams, 40 grams is lost here, and the net gain is in form of ATP, which is also termed as energy currency cell. This ATP is then used in internal work, whatever work is happening inside the body. What work is happening inside the body? Metabolism is continuously taking place. Whatever you are consuming, it is being digested. Digestion also requires energy. Then respiration is taking place. You are thinking, your brain using the maximum amount of energy, your brain is continuously working. It requires regular supply of energy. Okay, so internal work is happening in this form, and whatever work is happening, some energy is lost in form of heat, which ranges from 20 to 40%. And remaining is then used for your external work, like I am moving here and there, muscle contraction is happening, you move your hands like this, each and every body movements, your musculoskeletal system is involved completely, and it is using energy in form of external work, which ranges from 0 to 20%. Okay. So from this you understood that energy is required for various kinds of activities which are happening on day-to-day basis. We know that there are different stages in the life cycle, different physiological status wherein we need to be in equilibrium. There are certain conditions where we need to be in positive balance. There are certain conditions where we need to create negative balance in the body in terms of energy, because even if small amount of energy is deposited in the body, we are developing obesity, which is the major health concern, particularly in affluent category. Okay. So energy requirement, they are completely assessed in the terms of energy expenditure rather than intake. Even if we take 10 individuals who are having balanced posture, but still we need to check it on individual basis, because every person is an individual, they have different levels of energy expenditure. Okay. And body reserves, we know that fat will be reserved in our body even during the short periods. So energy intake, whatever is above the energy expenditure, will be harmful, and that will lead to overweight or obesity associated with chronic diseases. Okay. Now determination of energy requirement. The recommended dietary intake of energy is intended for healthy, well-to-do, active population. Energy requirement is determined in terms of energy output. Okay, whatever output, whatever energy which you are spending in various kinds of work, leisure activities, for tissue deposition in case of children, during pregnancy, for milk production, during lactation, for quantum of physical activity, which are termed as desirable in the case of individuals. Each and everything requires energy. So now this is the definition of energy requirement. Energy requirement is defined as the amount of energy needed to balance your energy expenditure, maintain a particular body size, maintain body composition, level of necessary desirable physical activity, optimum growth and development children, for tissue deposition during pregnancy, for secretion of milk during lactation, along with consistent good health. So we are incorporating various kinds of aspects and then determining the energy requirement of various categories. So the another thing which we will be determining is the total energy expenditure in the period of 24 hours. This figure is going to tell you various component of total energy expenditure. And on these basis only we will come over to requirements of the person. The first major component which is contributing to your energy expenditure is basal metabolic rate, that is in short termed as BMR, basal metabolic. It contributes to 45 to 75% of your total energy expenditure. In 24 hours, the amount of energy which you will be spending is mainly governed by your basal metabolic rate. That means 45 to 70%. The next component is thermogenesis. This is also called a specific dynamic action of food. We will be taking each and every component in the next slide. Thermogenesis contributes to 10% of your total energy expenditure. And the third most variable component, which varies from person to person, is physical activity. 15 to 50%. It is going to contribute. Like you are an athlete, then obviously your physical activity level will be more. So the energy expenditure will be more according to the activity levels. Now the first component, that is basal metabolism. Now what do you understand by basal metabolism? See, a series of life activities are taking inside our body. Okay, like tissues are being synthesized, tissues are being replaced, we are respiring, we are taking in oxygen, we are giving out carbon dioxide. Like you might have eaten something in the morning. Each and everything, whatever you consume, is being digested on a constant basis, regularly. It takes 12 hours to digest a single meal. Okay, so energy is being spent in that. My heart is beating continuously, it is requiring energy. So these are basically basic energy which is required for maintaining the life processes, and this comes under basal metabolism. Now, when to measure this basal metabolic rate? Randomly, I cannot measure it at any time of the day, because sometimes, like I am speaking, so little bit of my heartbeat has increased, my pulse might have increased. So this is not the correct way to measure basal metabolic rate. It is measured early in the morning when you are in relaxed condition, when your heartbeat is also normal, your pulse is also normal, you have not consumed anything in past 12 hours, so that digestion process is also very slow. So early morning, whenever we get up, okay, first of all we finish off our daily course and we have not consumed anything, so at that time is the most appropriate time to measure your basal metabolic rate. It is measured under standard conditions, that is being awake in supine position, that means relaxed position, okay, sitting quietly. After 10 to 12 hours of fasting, that means early in the morning you might have eaten your meal, next day in the night, maybe before 9 o'clock or so. So 10 to 12 hours of fasting is important, and 8 hours of physical rest and being in the state of mental relaxation. As I told you, brain actually requires maximum amount of energy. So if you are under stress, your BMR will be affected. Okay, and brain actually requires maximum amount of oxygen also. So functioning of the brain cell puts a heavy toll on your body. So mental relaxation in ambient environmental temperature, बहुत ज़्यादा गर्मी, things should not be like that, it should be a normal temperature, otherwise your BMR will be affected. Okay, and rest, if any other time you are measuring the metabolic rate, it is termed as RMR, that is resting metabolic rate. It will be termed as BMR only when it is measured early in the morning by fulfilling these conditions. If these conditions are not met, it will be termed as RMR. The next component was metabolic response of food, okay, which is also called as thermic effect of food or specific dynamic action of food. Food energy which is required for eating, ingestion, digestion, absorption, oxidation, deposition of nutrients will come under this category, that is called as thermic effect of food, which is also called as dietary induced thermogenesis or specific dynamic action of food or thermic effect. Okay, so basically it is extra heat which is being produced following digestion. Whenever you consume anything, some heat is produced. You might have observed people who are taking in the meal and then suddenly they start sweating. Okay, because while consuming the meal, some energy is being used. It depends upon the composition of whatever you are consuming will decide on how much energy is lost. So So usually it is observed like through experiments only, when different nutrients were fed to the individuals, and it was then observed that how much energy is lost. So the reports came out to be like, if you are consuming protein meal, protein rich meal, only proteins in meal, then maximum energy is lost. However, a mixed diet, it contributes to 6% of energy lost. Okay, so this is another point. And basically, if we talk about normal cases, our diet is mixed only. We have some amount of carbohydrate sources, we have some amount of protein sources, we have some amount of fat sources. So in general, if anybody is consuming a mixed meal, the energy lost will be approximately 6%. Okay. Then the another major component in the three, which was most variable as I told, was actually costing to the total energy ranging from 15 to 50% is physical activity. Okay, how much energy you are losing in your physical activity, physical work and all. So this is the second largest component of daily energy expenditure, and it is the most variable component. There are certain obligatory activities, obligatory physical activity. There are certain discretional physical activity. Obligatory activities are basically those which are compulsory, which you are doing daily. Okay, daily you are doing these activities which are required, which are included in household chores, which occupational activities and things like that. Some energy is lost in that also, and others are discretional activities which you willingly do. Some people are actually doing brisk walking daily, some are jogging, some are going to gym. So this is your in routine. But there are certain people who are athletes, so it is their occupational activity also, but no doubt that will tend to enhance the energy expenditure. Similarly, we have discretional activity which are important for well-being and for quality of life in general. So these were the three major components of your total energy expenditure, in which we discussed today about basal metabolic rate, we discussed about specific dynamic action of food, and we discussed about thermic effect of food. Each and every stage of life cycle has these three things in common, but they vary according to ages also. So there are number of factors which affect them. The next component, which is not there in case of adults, but there are certain life stages, as I discussed before, wherein we have growth as a component which contributes total energy. Okay, growth actually costs energy because of two components. First of all, energy is required to synthesize the growing tissues which are taking place in the body. Energy is required to be deposited in these tissues. Like if I talk about an infant, constant growth is taking place in an infant. You see an infant as soon as the infant is born, it is very small in size, and you will find that no activity is seen. But when you meet the same baby after 6 months, you will find that a lot of change has taken place. Now the infant is able to sit also. Now the next stage comes that the infant is crawling. So rapid change is taking place during that period. So energy is required to a great extent. Now energy cost of growth is about 35%. But as soon as the person crosses certain stage, the growth literally stops. Like in case of adults, after 18 years or maybe after 20-25 years, you will find that no change is happening. Only the change which happens is increase in body weight, which is not desirable. So growth is taking place only till certain stage. Now there are two other situations where growth is taking place, that is pregnancy and lactation, wherein we again require some extra energy, which we have discussed before also, because we know during the pregnancy period, this is being developed placenta, various maternal tissues like uterus, breast, fat stores, all these things are increasing. During the lactation period, we need energy for being secreted in milk, because for first 6 months, the infant is actually on breastfeed. So whatever energy is required for the growth of infant, it is fulfilled through milk, which is actually fed to the baby by the mother herself. And the energy is required to produce that milk, which is actually used by the lactating women. Okay, this is another. Now talking about each factors and various things which are impacting those. Like the first factor which we discussed in total energy, that is basal metabolic rate. Now there are certain factors which are affecting the basal metabolic rate. We know that this is the largest component, okay, approximately 45 to 75% of total energy expenditure is governed by your basal metabolic rate. Okay, there are a number of factors which are going to affect your basal metabolic rate, like your age, your sex, your hormonal status, your growth levels, your disease, your infections. Everything is impacting the basal metabolic rate. So the first thing is body size and composition. Okay, the basal metabolic rate or the resting energy expenditure, they are impacted by your body size. If the body size is more, the surface area will be more. Okay, so that is why those people who are having more height, they have more BMR in comparison to those which are stout. Because the surface area is more, so heat loss will be more. The heat will be dissipated through the body surface. Secondly, the composition. If you have more of fat mass, then fat tissues, the adipose tissues, they are metabolically inert. Your BMR will be low. If you have more of lean body mass or fat-free mass, then these are metabolically active cells. So your BMR will be more. Okay. In case of fat, it is less. In case of lean body mass, it is more. Athletes, they tend to have more muscular mass, more lean body mass, less of fat-free, less of fat mass. So their basal metabolism is 5% higher than their other counterparts. So mainly, if you are enhancing your lean body mass, you are having a kind of routine which is helpful in muscle development. Now this muscle development helps to raise the BMR. And the person appears to be lean and thin and metabolic. More active cells are there in the body. Okay. Similarly, the bigger size and all. So these are certain factors which are going to impact the BMR, because the person with smaller size will be having lesser BMR. Okay. The next is age. See, you will find that, as I told you, if you see an infant is growing very fast. With age, the growth also slows down, because there are changes in body composition also with age. You will find that elderly, they tend to lose on muscles gradually. Okay, you will find that developing or building muscles or enhancing the protein metabolism becomes very difficult after a particular age of life. So at that time, there is loss of fat-free mass, and fat mass tend to increase. You will find, if you see an elderly person, you will find that the body is sagging all throughout the, arms are sagging and all. Why they are sagging? Because now they are losing on the muscle mass of the body. So the BMR also declines. And with every decade, every 10 years, there is 2% decline in BMR. Accordingly, one needs to adjust the energy intake also. Okay, so after 30 years of age, with every 10 years, 30 to 40, 2% BMR is going down. 40 to 50, another 2% is going down. So as the BMR is going down, your energy intake should be. I told you about gender. Okay, women, they tend to have more of fat mass in the body. Body is like that. They have breast and they have pelvic area, and these reasons are those kinds of reasons wherein you will find fat deposition. So their body composition shows more of adipose tissue deposition. On the contrary, the male body is different. They have more of lean body mass. They have more of muscle mass. Okay, so their BMR is more in comparison to the females. Next, we have important thing, that is hormonal status of an individual. You might have read about thyroid status. So we have two status, like hypothyroidism and hyper. These are basically reflecting your hormonal balance. When there is hypothyroidism, the thyroid gland is producing lesser amount of thyroxine because of iodine deficiency. Okay, and in iodine deficiency, you will find that BMR reduces, and the person tend to gain more weight. In case of hyperthyroidism, the body is producing more of thyroxine, the BMR is also raised, and the person appears to be very thin. Okay, so these are certain hormonal conditions. Nowadays, you will find that young girls, they tend to develop several other hormonal imbalances like PCOS and all. So these are basically, reasons why they tend to gain weight at an early stage of life. And if such kind of hormonal complication arise, then they have number of issues in the later stage. So maintaining body weight becomes very important, and we know we need to regulate these three components which I have been discussing for maintaining the body weight. Next is your emotional excitement, fear, anxiety, your stress levels. They tend to impact your hormonal status again. Like if a person is having a tendency of being anxious all the time, the person is stressed out very fast due to some small disturbances in day-to-day life, this promotes release of epinephrine. And this directly promotes glycogen lysis and increase the cellular activity. Whatever energy is being stored, whatever carbohydrate particularly is stored in form of glycogen will be broken down, and then the glucose will enter in the bloodstream. It will also tend to increase body weight. Next are the environmental conditions. Okay, the kind of environment in which you are staying. Like in the cold regions, you will find that BMR is higher in comparison to the heated areas, the temperate regions. Okay, so therein you will find that more of body temperature. As soon as the temperature of environment goes down, the BMR of the body rises. That is why you will find that during winters we have tendency of consuming ghee-rich products and all, like laddus and all, you know, because they tend to keep us warm. But in summers we are not consuming all these things. That is why consuming millets was in more trend, particularly during the winter season. Okay, because of all these things we need to change the dietary intakes also. Then next aspect is high altitude. As you move to the high altitudes, you will find that BMR again rises. Temperature is also down at the high altitudes. Besides this, the oxygen levels is also very low. So if you are going like mountaineers and all these who go for expeditions at higher altitudes, they need to consume the kind of products which are consumed in metabolism is less of oxygen. So hypoxia is also a situation you will find which tend to increase glucose utilization, okay, which in turn affects the metabolic rate. Although this is temporary, because you will be going at high altitudes, maybe for mountaineering or other kind of adventures for a particular hours in a day. Okay, you will not be staying over there. So these are kind of physiological stress periods which have direct impact on the metabolic rate of the individual. And since this is RMR, RMR is highest during the periods of rapid growth and during all these kinds of conditions. Okay. Besides this, there is another situation which tend to impact your metabolic rate, that is fever, illness, infection, injury. You might have observed some person who is suffering with fever. The body of that person is heated up. Okay, the temperature goes high. With every degree rise in body temperature, your BMR increases by 7%. Okay, because why? Catabolic activities are increasing in the body, there is breakdown happening. So at that time we need to check out the body temperature. You might have seen at home also, your mother might have, you know, kept cold towel on the body so that it takes up the heat from the body, so that your body temperature goes down. It is very important so that the catabolic activities in the body are reduced. Okay, so this is another region. And whenever there are some injury or infection, that also, because again breakdown is there of the cells, whenever there is some injury, the cells of that area get ruptured, and because of that the BMR rises. Okay, so these were certain aspects resulting into your next is here. Next is your nutritional status. Undernutrition and starvation, these are the conditions. As I told you, our body is very smart. If we are actually, you know, having lesser amount of food available to eat, so the person when entering into starvation will tend to develop reduced BMR. Okay, your BMR, your metabolic rate will reduce, because now your body doesn't have enough to eat. So it is going to enter into safe mode and it is going to conserve on the energy. The BMR will be reduced by about 10 to 20%. Semi-starvation studies have also shown this thing, and there will be actually, you know, loss of free fat mass from the body. Then reduction of BMR is also mediated through weight loss itself. As I told you, if you are on dieting, then again it is very important that during dieting thing we need to increase the physical activity levels, because if our physical activity is also reduced, we are going to conserve on the energy. Again the body is going to enter into homeostatic phase. So we need to enhance the BMR by increasing the physical activity. So this was about BMR. The another important aspect of your total energy expenditure is thermogenic effect of food. I told you, thermic effect of food, that is the energy which is being produced on ingestion of the food. Okay, now this particular energy expenditure is associated with consumption of food, and it accounts for approximately 10% of your total energy expenditure. You will find that many times in situation when a person wants to actually reduce on the weight, they mainly rely on protein rich diet or maybe protein diet only, like you might have seen in case of keto diets. Okay, in keto diet we are consuming just proteins, because dietitian use this principle that the thermic effect of food or the energy which is being lost in ingestion of the food will increase, because protein, they have highest SDA, highest thermic effect. On the contrary, proteins are also not stored in the body. So they use this principle in planning of keto diet. But this is a kind of fad diet. because protein then consumed, if they are not stored in the body, they pose a load on kidney, because kidneys have to work hard to excrete the excess protein. So one should never consume such kind of diet by oneself. One has to have a very scientific, scientific advice in order to adopt such kind of fat diet, and that even not for regular basis, just for a short period of time, just to trigger on the stagnant body weight. Okay. Then besides this, the increment in the energy expenditure during digestion above baseline rate, they happen because of thermic effect of food only. If we consider about carbohydrate is 5 to 10%, the thermic effect in case of fat will be 0 to 5%. In case of protein, the thermic effect is observed to be 20 to 30%. Okay. So highest is observed in case of protein. Then the highest thermic effect of protein reflects relatively high metabolic cost. Whenever we are having a protein rich meal, it is having highest metabolic cost. Okay, so ingestion of a protein rich meal tend to enhance the energy expenditure. Then why it is doing like this? Because basically it is involved in processing of amino acid which are yielded by absorption of dietary protein for protein synthesis. Secondly, activation of sympathetic nervous system also. It is elicited by a dietary carbohydrate, by sensory stimulation, and this also leads to, so whenever we are consuming carbohydrate rich meal, the expenditure will range from 5 to 10%. Spicy foods also tend to enhance the specific dynamic action. Okay. Next we have the last component of the expenditure, that is basically of physical activity. Physical activity is second largest component. Energy which is spent in physical activity is most variable, and like if a person is bedridden, spending much more time on bed, then energy will be lost. However, if the person is active, we can enhance up till 50% of total energy expenditure. It demands basically what amount of physical effort you are putting in your daily life. So on this basis, we have divided the people into moderate and vigorous. Sedentary are those people where not much physical effort is involved. Okay, like they are mostly moving through motor vehicles, not exercise, they do not participate in sport, they are mostly spending the leisure time sitting or maybe standing with little amount of body displacement. On the contrary, we have actively or moderately active people wherein they are involved in strenuous amount of physical activity, they are more energy expenditure is happening in comparison to sedentary people. The third component is vigorously active people, those who are actually working as construction laborers, those agricultural workers, those who are having strenuous physical activity. Their category comes under vigorously active people. Okay, so today we have completed the components which are contributing to the energy expenditure. In the next class, we will be talking about energy expenditure and calculation of energy expenditure using various kinds of approaches. Okay, and through the life cycle, what all are the energy requirements. Thank you.